Hello everyone, the following video is a compilation of my 3 previous Transformers Legacy videos. However, I have added some new segments in, because I have acquired a few figures since the making of those original videos. We'll also try to clean up the audio as best as possible. That all being said, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Whenever you hear this music, you will know that it is time for me to update you on a new figure I've acquired. First is Transformers Legacy. 20 years ago, Transformers Classics released, which gave you updated G1 Transformers for the collectors. This was the first big collector's line for the Transformers, and it has existed ever since, eventually being rebranded to the Generations. Despite adding an S at the end for Generations, most of these are still G1 redos, with the occasional other character slipping in. However, this would hit its change when we got the Kingdom line in 2021. Kingdom was the third entry in the War for Cybertron trilogy. The first line was called Siege, which depicted very accurate G1 robot modes that turned into Cybertronian vehicle modes, which was then amended with the Earthrise toyline, which gave you even more accurate G1 designs, but now turning them into their proper Earth modes. The third chapter was initially going to introduce characters from the 1986 Transformers film. However, Hasbro CEO brought up that it was also Beast Force's 25th anniversary that year, and they should do something to celebrate it. Hasbro had already created figures for the G1 movie, so they created Studio Series 86 to use them, which I talked about in my Rise, Fall, and Redemption of Studio Series video. The figures for Kingdom ended up becoming half Beast Wars, half G1, though near the end, G1 took over a lot of the line. Regardless, this line proved highly successful, and so Hasbro greenlit the Transformers Legacy Trilogy toy line, which was said to have half G1 and half of everything else. And that is what we will be discussing in today's video, just to see how well Hasbro kept their promise and how well the figures turned out. Continuing from Kingdom, they kept the size classes the same, so we got the pocket-sized core class, the standard-sized deluxe class, the slightly bigger or more complex Voyager size class, the even bigger or even more complex leader class, depending on the figure, the even bigger commander class, and finally, for the really big ones, the Titan class figures, which are gigantic, and both them and commanders only have one figure per line. With that background info stated, we can finally get started and look at the first toy line, simply called Legacy.
I believe the Earthlings say, lay it on me, man.
Before we begin though, I should note that I do not own every figure in the whole trilogy because I'm not made of money. I also won't be talking about the exclusives unless they share a mold or the mold originates from the toy line. That all being said, we can get started. We will begin looking with the core class. The first wave had 3 figures: Hot Rod, Iguanus, and Skywarp. Starting with Autobot Hot Rod, he is from G1, and the figure does look pretty decent. However, it should be noted that this is actually a package refresh, which basically means it's from a different line that they got refreshed into the new line of the Kingdom Hot Rod core class figure. And so, I don't really want to waste much time with him, so
Out of the way, Hot Rod!
Next one's a bit more obscure, as it is Iguanus. Iguanus is a Pretender character from the G1 toy line. A Pretender was this robot that would transform normally but could go inside a disguise, this case being an iguana. And the interesting part of the Legacy figure is the iguana can turn into the motorcycle this time, and that's really cool. And so yeah, this is actually a pretty neat figure. Finally, we have Skywarp, who I do actually own, so I can talk about him. But looking at the figure itself, it is just a repaint of the Kingdom Core class Starscream, like all the Seeker jets are. However, the figure is missing a very vital component: the null ray cannons that are supposed to go on his biceps. Figure does not include them. He said it comes with this weird weapon, and I'll explain why in a minute. Looking at the figure's articulation though, the head rotates left and right. The arms are universal, so they go forward, back, in and out. The elbows bend about 90. The biceps swivel, no waist swivel. The hips can move in and out, forward and back. The knees bend, and there's a knee swivel, and that's it. The articulation here is about average for what core class can offer, and the transformation is pretty good as well. So Skywarp is an alright figure if inferior to Starscream due to the lack of null rays. Now, the reason for Skywarp having an odd weapon is that all 3 weapons can indeed combine to form a really big sword. While the sword does look very cool, I don't think it was worth getting rid of Skywarp's iconic weapon for it. As for Wave 2, we got Optimus Prime, Shockwave, and a G2 Megatron. Starting with Optimus, the figure does look really awesome and captures the look of G1 Optimus very well, but it is also just a package refresh of the Kingdom figure, like with a Hot Rod. As for ones I do own, I do have Shockwave. He looks really good, and he does transform into this Cybertronian spaceship mode, which is different than his G1 self, but in a reference, you can flip down a handle, and he can be handheld as a gun by bigger figures, which is an awesome reference, since in G1 he was often used like a little pistol. Articulation's about the same as Skywarp's, nothing really to go into there. However, this figure is a lot better than Skywarp, I feel. Even though the weapon is not something he used in G1, just like with the Skywarp figure, it doesn't take away from any of the weapons he does use, because his hand still is the cannon arm. And so yeah, this Shockwave figure is really great. I do also own the G2 Core Class Megatron, who does look pretty cool in his own right. However, compared to the source, yeah, there's a lot off. Lots of gray paint is missing, and it just doesn't look very accurate. And that is just due to the fact that this is a simple repaint of the Kingdom Core Class Megatron, which is based on the G1 self. In fact, the weapon included is just the G1 Megatron's original alt mode. As for articulation, the figure is actually above average for Core Class, featuring one wrist swivel just due to the transformation, but also featuring a waist swivel, which is very uncommon for Core Class. The mold is still really good, so I do really like this, and you can make it slightly more accurate by plugging the included weapon onto this port in this back, creating a look sort of similar to the G2 figure. Wave 3 of Core Class only has two figures, so starting with Legacy Soundwave, this figure is absolutely amazing, but I don't own him, so I can't talk about him too much, but it is worth noting that this figure is a package refresh of the Kingdom's Core Class Soundwave. The only other figure in the wave is Bombburst, who once again is a pretender like Iguanus, and so not much else to say on him. It's cool that they incorporated the animal turning into the vehicle. And with that, that's it for Core Class. Core Class was kind of disappointing. Most of these figures are from Kingdom in one way or another, with 3 unique molds, which are really good, but still, they're all pretty much all G1. The only exception is the G2 Megatron, which is just a repaint of a G1 Megatron. Let's see if the deluxes are any better in this case. Deluxes also have 3 waves, but with 4 figures each, there's a lot more to talk about. The first wave includes G1 Drag Strip, G1 Skids, G1 Kickback, and Prime Universe RC. Drag Strip I used to own, but no longer do. When I did have him, I really loved him. He was an awesome figure with great posability and a great look to him. Transformation was super fun and not very frustrating at all, and the vehicle mode looks absolutely amazing. Should also be noted that it can split in half, and I bet you're wondering why. Well, if you don't know, I'll explain in a bit. Skids also I don't own, but he does look pretty nice, and I've heard good things about him. His transformation here is pretty simple, but that's not always really a bad thing. Should also know that he comes with this clear blue plastic weapon. This was a weird thing that a lot of the early Legacy figures have, that they were dropped pretty quickly after. But yeah, Skids is pretty cool, though do be careful, as I've heard of some breakages on the shoulders.
I thought you were made of sterner stuff.
Kickback is also a pretty decent little figure. He has a little translucent purple weapon, and as for his transformation, it's very simple, but the bug mode does look pretty cool. And yeah, this is an alright little figure. Now let's get on to the one I have the most to say about, which is Prime Universe RC. Now, the reason I was looking so forward to RC was because I don't really have much nostalgic attachment to G1 at all. In fact, I've barely seen the series as it is. But I did love Transformers Prime, and RC was one of my favorite characters on Transformers Prime. And I wanted to get a figure of her that looked great and was, more importantly, available, because I missed out on both her original releases. So you can color me shocked when I saw the figure and it looks absolutely nothing like her. Well, okay, it looks vaguely similar, but the problem comes down to proportions. The figure has a very blocky look to it, which is designed to replicate the G1 aesthetic. Why is it like this? I'll explain later, but as the figure itself, it does look pretty nice, and it does include some accessories. You get this tire that splits open to form this weird drone thing, and this clear blue shuriken piece that you can split to make the arm blades from the show. And yeah, so it's an alright figure overall. Let's look at its articulation, because I do own it. The head rotates, arms are universal, bicep swivel, elbow joint, wrist swivel, waist swivel, hips, knees, and ankle movement. Figure itself is pretty good, but the problem is the accuracy. That's what the issue is, and make matters weirder, the vehicle mode looks 100% accurate, so I don't know why the robot mode is so off. Though, Hasbro did provide an explanation for why they went with this G1 look. It's because they said that they wanted them to blend in together if you put the whole line on a shelf. And to that I say,
You are either lying or you're stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid.
I can't speak for everybody, but from personal experience, I display all my figures by series. So with my Prime shelf, I have these legacy figures that just don't blend in with the actual figures from the Prime cartoon, and it looks out of place. But getting back to RC, her transformation is also pretty good. I forgot to mention that. So yeah, she's a good mold, but not the best representation of Prime RC. Let's see if Wave 2 of the Deluxes is any better. Wave 2 features G1 Wild Rider, G1 Elita 1, Beast Wars Tarantulas, and Prime Universe Knockout. Much better variety. Starting with Wild Rider, he is what is referred to as a Stunticon. Like with Dragstrip before him, they all have a purpose that I'll get to later in the video. But the figure does look pretty nice, like the black and red color scheme. Transformation looks a little interesting, though I would be a little worried about that clear plastic windshield that he has. And the vehicle mode also looks pretty good. This is a pretty decent little figure. As for Elita 1, she looks pretty alright as well. A little bulkier than I think she's supposed to be, but not so bad. Comes with 2 clear plastic weapons. There's that weird gimmick again. The figure itself does look pretty good. Transformation from what I hear is alright. And the vehicle mode is also pretty alright. So I guess this is a pretty alright figure overall. Now, Tarantulas I have a ton to say about. First off, this figure is absolutely amazing looking, capturing the look of the cartoon 100% accurately. Includes 2 weapons. The saw blade he never used in this form, but it is cool that it's there. Articulation is also incredible. Head is on a ball joint, universal shoulders, elbows, waist, hips, knees, and ankles, plus all the spider legs can articulate. This figure is absolutely amazing, and the transformation is simple but really fun to do. But here's my main source of confusion. Tarantulas looks 100% accurate to source, and that goes for all the Beast Wars characters in this line and the Kingdom toy line. But the Beast Wars aesthetic doesn't really match the G1 blocky aesthetic. So by all accounts, if we're using Prime as an example, the figures should look something like this, but they don't. So this is just some weird hypocrisy on Hasbro's part for not making the Prime figures accurate, but making the Beast Wars ones accurate. But still, for Beast Wars fans, this is absolutely a must-get, and this figure is one of the best in the Legacy line.
Well, that's just Prime.
Prime Knockout has a lot of the same issues as Prime RC, but even worse so, as this actually looks pretty much nothing like the character. You could tell me this is G1 Shatter and I'd believe you. It's such a generic looking red Decepticon design. Nothing about this really screams Knockout. Even the weapons don't. He has this like gray piece which can be a gun, and this like weird dagger piece that has clear plastic. Can combine them to form a Triton, but that's about it. As for the articulation, the figure actually has decent posability, which is about the average for the line, but good range on all of the joints. And here's the kicker. This figure is actually a remold of Studio Series 86 Jazz, a very awesome figure. So by extension, this figure is also pretty good. But there's not really much reason to get it, except for the vehicle mode, because that actually looks exactly like the vehicle mode from the cartoon, and as we all know, Knockout would be very proud to know that his vehicle mode is prioritized because he just loves his paint job.
I like the way I look in steel-belted radials.
Wave 3 I won't have much to say about because I don't own any of these figures, but the wave consists of Crankcase, Point Blank, Dead End, and Skull Grin. Crankcase is a remold of Legacy Skids, and except, here's the thing, Crankcase is supposed to have these guns that come over his shoulders, which the figure does not have, so fortunately this figure is not that great. Update, I have since acquired the figure, and as we can see, now that I own the figure, I can confidently say the figure itself does look pretty decent. Though one thing I did not mention is that the front grille of the vehicle mode becomes a weapon in the robot mode, which is an interesting idea, but it does mean that if you lose it, the vehicle mode is going to look a little weird. Figure itself also does actually have the shoulder cannons that I originally thought it didn't have. They were just moved to these little tiny nubs behind his back, which made they were very unnoticeable in the stock photos. But as for the figure's articulation, it's a little awkward, especially in the arms. But it's not the worst thing, and the transformation is okay, but it's not the most fun for me. So yeah, Definitely not the best mold, but at least I can now confidently say that. Dead End is our third Stunticon, and he also does look pretty decent. Though I did hear this figure has an issue with the vehicle mode, and that is that the back tabs don't tab in the best. And also, like with Drag Strip, he is able to split in the middle during vehicle mode, and I'll explain why very soon. Now, point blank, I haven't heard much good things about him. I've heard his articulation is pretty bad, and the transformation is nothing special, but he does come with a Target Master, which is unique. That's a little mini transformer that can convert into a gun, and that's pretty cool, so at least that part of the toy is pretty fun. And Skullgrin is another pretender. He looks pretty good and turns into a tank. Update again, I have since acquired Skullgrin. The figure itself actually looks really awesome, and I hate that I didn't highlight that before. Really like the skull-shaped head. Figure also comes with above average accessories, coming with these cannons that can plug onto his back or be held as weapons, along with these two blades that you can also use as guns, which is a cool gimmick. Transformation into the tank mode is also pretty fun and solid, and I do like the weapon storage because it does look really cool to me. As for the figure's articulation, this figure actually has some very good movement. I especially like that the hands can bend inwards like he's wielding his swords, which is a great joint to have. Overall, Skullgrin is definitely a really good figure from Legacy, and I regret not getting him sooner. That's it for the Wave 3 Deluxes. In terms of honoring the legacy of the brand, the Deluxes are still lacking. We only got 2 Prime figures and 1 Beast Wars figure, the rest is all G1. Let's see if the Voyager class is any better in this regard. Like before, we got 3 waves, but with 2 figures each, they'll be much quicker to take a look at. Wave 1 has G1 Blaster and Prime Universe Bulkhead. Blaster is just a package refresh of the Kingdom figure, so we're going to skip him for now and move straight on to Bulkhead. Bulkhead is the most infamous example in this line, as he looks nothing like his Prime Universe counterpart besides the head. Proportions are all wrong, and worst of all, he has giant legs. Design aside though, the figure is actually really awesome looking. This is a really cool reinvention of Bulkhead. So it probably could have gone away without being called Prime Bulkhead just because of how inaccurate it is. The figure includes a minigun, his Wrecking Ball mace, and a shield that you can use. Articulation's really stellar on this guy, having really deep bends in the elbows and the knees and the ankles. So yeah, this figure is honestly pretty cool, though the vehicle mode is completely inaccurate, which is weird, because the vehicle modes were the one thing the Prime figures did get accurate to this point. But still, it's not bad, though here's something strange. This figure would eventually be repainted into Prime Breakdown, and it looks a lot better as Prime Breakdown because of the design similarities, namely the long legs and the square chest. Wave 2 of the Voyagers consists of a G1 Soundwave and a G2 G-Axis. Starting with G-Axis, the figure does look really nice, though it is kind of ugly, but that was the G2 comic style at the time. Figure has pretty good posability from what I've heard, and comes with 2 weapons. Transformation's pretty good, but the ship mode has bad placement storage for his arms, as they just hang off the vehicle mode. But beyond that, the figure does look really nice and very accurate, so I would recommend him if you're a fan of the G2 comics that this figure comes from. Now, Soundwave is very interesting because this figure is another repaint of an older figure, this time of the Siege Soundwave, just removing all the battle damage, creating a new, clean-looking Soundwave. Well, that is cool. The problem was that that's not the Soundwave people wanted. People wanted the Earthrise Soundwave, because he was hard to get. He was a Walmart exclusive, and that would be the one that everyone wants because that's the one that turns into the cassette deck that he was in G1. However, instead Hasbro re-released the Siege one, and that turns into this weird Cybertronian thingy. But as a figure itself, it does look pretty nice, and it does have pretty good articulation even though it's from 2019. So yeah, definitely a decent Soundwave stand-in, just not as good as the Earthrise version, and I'll have more to say on that figure when we get to Legacy United. Final wave of the Voyagers includes a Beast Wars Inferno and an Armada Universe Starscream. Starting with Beast Wars Inferno, he was the final Beast Wars character you needed to complete the Season 1 cast, and they did a glorious job with him. In fact, he even has an articulated jaw, which is very uncommon for Transformer figures. And yeah, the figure looks absolutely stunning, has really good articulation, I've heard, and it transforms pretty well into an ant. And the end mode is a little inaccurate to the show, which is the one area of inaccuracy the Beast Wars figures have. But beyond that, it's still a really great figure. However, the figure I was looking the most forward to, even more so than Arsene and Bulkhead, was the Armada Universe Starscream. This figure looks absolutely amazing and captures the look of the show perfectly, which is an awesome thing to see in this line. The Armada figures originally were almost all brick due to their gimmicks, but this figure has very nice posability, which I'll get into in a bit. But looking at the accessories, he includes the Star Saber sword, which is a bit undersized, unfortunately, but he also includes his wing sword. Now, the promotional images have it red, like when it is in the show when he activates it, sort of like a lightsaber. However, the toy uses it white, which is how it looks when he's not activating it like a lightsaber. It's weird that Hasbro couldn't figure out which to go with.
I don't know if this is the right choice. I have made my decision.
As for articulation, the same as the usual, pretty great, though it should be noted that the thigh can untab if you swivel it too much. But yeah, this is still pretty great, and the transformation is very fun and very easy. I really love this Starscream figure, and he still also has his Minicon gimmick, even though he does not include the Minicon, which is very sad, but still, for one of my favorite characters in the brand, this is the figure I've always wanted for him. And I'm glad that at least one Armada figure got to be in the first year of Legacy. So yeah, the Voyagers actually do a good job of celebrating the legacy of the brand, as there's only 2 G1 characters and the rest are all from different parts. Leader class is next, and it only has 4 figures total. Starting with Wave 1, we got Galvatron and G2 Laser Optimus Prime. Getting Galvatron out of the way, this is another repaint of a figure from Kingdom. But this time the repaint is barely anything. They just removed the battle damage again, but the battle damage was barely even noticeable on the original. So this is kind of pointless, especially since about 2 years later, we got the Studio Series 86 version, which has an even more accurate paint job.
This is bad comedy.
Looking at the G2 Laser Optimus Prime, I'll have more to say on him in a bit, but the figure is really great, though he is a bit small as he's just a Voyager that comes with a bunch of stuff to make him a leader. Should also note that the legs are reused from the Earthrise Optimus. Wave 2 of the leader classes only has Blitzwing, and he does look really awesome in robot mode. Now if you don't know, Blitzwing is a triple changer, so he has both a tank and a jet mode. Both these modes don't look the best, and that is sadly unfortunate, but the robot mode does look really nice. Should also be noted that he's around Voyager height because of the complexity of the triple changing gimmick. And as such, he comes with these giant hand things that you can plug into the vehicles to create some sort of effect. I'm not sure what they're going for there. Wave 3 only has 1 figure again, and it is Beast Wars Transmetals 2 Megatron. And oh my god, this figure is absolutely amazing. I mean, just look at it. That looks absolutely incredible. He comes with this flame effect piece for the dragon head, which can also be used as a flame sword when not in use for the dragon mode. As for articulation, he's got plenty. Head rotates, his arms rotate, biceps, double jointed elbow on the left, wrist movement. The dragon head is on several ball joints, waist swivel, hip movement, thigh swivel, knee bend, and ankle pivot. Transformation is complex but very fun, and the dragon mode is absolutely gigantic and awesome looking. This is by far my favorite figure in the Legacy Year 1. It is absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend them. The Legacy leaders, like the Voyagers, were pretty good because there's a nice half and half mix. So you get half G1, half everything else. So with that all said, let's take a look at the Commander class and the Titan class, and then the exclusives. Commander class figure is Motormaster. Now, he is roughly Voyager sized, but he comes with this giant trailer, which I'll explain in a second. But he is actually a Stunticon. And you're wondering, what are the Stunticons? I've been building them up this whole video. Well, they're a combiner group. Metasaur's trailer forms the main body, with him forming the head. Then you attach the other 3 components to form the arms and the back of the legs. However, that still leaves 1 spot left on the back of the legs, which we haven't filled out yet. And that's where we get it to Breakdown. Now, Breakdown was released as part of the first wave of Legacy Evolution. However, his packaging still uses the old Legacy box, so I'll count him here. He is mostly a retool of Wild Rider, and so not much else to say on him there. As for the Stunticon set combiner, Metasaur is really cool looking, and so yeah, this is actually a really cool set to get if you can get them all. And thankfully, they were reissued as part of a box set recently, so if you want them all, you can get them that way. Now, the Titan is even cooler, as it is Cybertron Universe Metroplex, our first Cybertron figure on the line, and what a one to go with, as this is the biggest figure in the toy line. And he looks absolutely amazing and perfectly accurate, which is always a bonus for this line. And yeah, he comes with this gigantic saw blade weapon, which can split, and you can transform him slightly to form this kind of mode. I'm not sure what this is because I haven't seen Cybertron, but it does look cool, and he is pretty impressive until you get to the vehicle mode, which looks very lazy, but supposedly is accurate to the show. This is a very cool figure for Cybertron fans, and it's nice to have something gigantic be something that isn't G1 related. And it shows that Hasbro had a decent amount of faith in this doing well. As for exclusives, starting with the Wreck and Rule collection, which are the Amazon exclusive figures, these are based on the Wreckers team of figures. The only one I want to really highlight really quickly is this Prime Universe Bulkhead repaint that is designed to reference Age of Extinction / The Last Night Hound, which is cool because at least it's a nice Bayverse reference, and I'm always happy to see those in Transformers, because that's my favorite part of Transformers media, as that's the one I grew up with. The Target exclusive Buzzworthy Bumblebee line included this 4-pack of figures released from previous lines, just with new paint jobs, as well as these Beast Wars Kingdom figures repainted to look like old Beast Wars toys. Beyond that, it also had this exclusive figure called the Red Cog, which is a repaint of an older figure, and that's about it. However, when it comes to exclusives, the most interesting one is the Velocitron Speedia 500 set of figures, which are exclusive to Walmart. These figures all come in their vehicle modes because the theme was based around racing. However, most of them are also repaints of figures from this line, but that does mean I get to talk about one of them, that being Robots in Disguise 2001 Scourge, who was a repaint of Laser Optimus Prime, because in the show, his character model is just that of an evil-looking Optimus Prime based on the Laser Optimus Prime toy. And yeah, this figure is absolutely amazing. He's got a lot of articulation, and I really like the transformation a lot. Scourge is an awesome looking design, and I highly recommend this figure over the normal Laser Optimus Prime due to the color scheme. But speaking of, that caused a lot of controversy, because the color scheme is actually inaccurate to that of the show, and instead looks like a normal Nemesis Prime color scheme, which did upset a lot of fans of the series. But I still think it looks cool regardless, even though it would have been nicer to get the accurate colors. However, this subline also features 2 unique molds. The first one is Cosmos, who is a G1 character I don't know much about, but he turns into a flying saucer, which is a nice unique alt mode, and the robot mode does also look cool. Plus, he comes with a racing flag, which is an awesome accessory. However, the other one that's most interesting to talk about as a unique mold is Cybertron Universe Override, our second Cybertron figure in the line, and marked as a Voyager despite being very small. Figure does look really nice and does look accurate to the show. Her articulation is also pretty alright for her size, and yeah, this is an interesting figure. I wonder why it was marked as an exclusive and not thrown in the main line to give Cybertron more representation. And with that, I feel we've talked about every major thing in the Legacy Year 1 toy line. So, how well did it keep its promise of making figures from other continuities? Did it do a good job?
No.
Looking strictly at the main line, there are 32 figures in it, and there's only 11 of them that aren't G1. Dividing the 11 by 32 and then timesing it by 100 for percentage, we get a roughly 35%. That is below 50%, which is what was promised. And not to mention, some of the figures we did get were G1ified to begin with. And looking at the brands, they miss several aspects. If we count exclusives back, we do gain 1 figure from Robots in Disguise 2001. But that's it. Other parts of the brand, such as Beast Machines, Energon, Animated, Robots in Disguise 2015, and the movies, are ignored. And yeah, so that fails the legacy of the brand. The reason I said to all our G1 in the thumbnail is because that's what it is. Not just the G1ification of the figures, but also this line is mostly still just G1. But will Legacy Evolution be better? You'll have to find out next time in a different video that I'll probably make months from now. But I bet you're wondering, why is Prowl on the thumbnail if he's not in the video? Well...
Rats, can't hear you. There must be interference in the signal. Call you...
Personally, I've always found Bumblebee's fake static to be a lot more convincing.
Alright, now it is time for Legacy Evolution. Previously on my channel, I talked about the Transformers Legacy toy line, and how I felt it was very disappointing as a fan of the other parts of the brand besides G1, as the line was mostly G1 based, and the figures that weren't G1 based tended to be redesigned to look more G1. Well, that was the first entry in what is called a trilogy. Second entry was called Legacy Evolution, and I completely forget this toy line even exists. While the first one is disappointing, and I have some strong opinions on the third one, I completely forget this second one even exists. I genuinely don't even know if all the characters on the thumbnail are actually in the toy line.
You're an idiot.
Like with Legacy, we are going in order of size classes, starting with the smallest and working our way up. So looking at Core Class Wave 1, we have a Sound Blaster and 2 Dinobots. See, the Dinobot core classes are interesting because they have a combining gimmick. So we will see how well that turns out. Starting with Dinobot Sludge, he looks very weird, and it's mostly the kibble on the legs. The upper body looks decent enough, but the lower body looks really bad. And yeah, articulation's not going to be great because it's a little core class guy. And his transformation is simple but kind of fun, but looking at the dinosaur mode, you can see that, yeah, it doesn't look very good either. It's actually very hard to make out the legs. It all kind of just looks like one big giant plastic thing to me. As for his waymate Slug looks a lot better. The proportions are a lot more normal on him, and he even comes with a weapon which is formed from his tail. Looking at the figure's articulation, it is also a lot easier to use just due to the better proportions on this guy. Transformation is about as fun, but the dinosaur mode looks a lot better on him. So I definitely say Slug is a better Dinobot than Sludge. The final figure for Wave 1 is Core Class Sound Blaster. Now this figure is just a repaint of the Core Class Soundwave I've mentioned previously. However, this figure I actually own, so I can show off his articulation. His articulation consists of a swivel at the head, plus a joint that allows it to look up, universal shoulder joints, elbow swivel, wrist hinge for the transformation but can still be used. The hips can move forward and out, rotate at the thigh, knee joint, and some movement in the ankles. This makes him one of the most posable 4-class figures in the range, allowing him to get some awesome poses. He also comes with a lot of accessories, including 2 guns and a cassette tape that's meant to represent Buzzsaw. What's interesting is that the original Soundwave came with a cassette tape that's meant to represent Laserbeak. Speaking of the cassette, the transformation for this guy is absolutely fun and amazing, and the cassette mode also looks pretty good, except for the feet sticking up a little too high. But still, Core Class Soundwave / Sound Blaster is great. Whichever one you want is up to you, but I prefer Sound Blaster. Though I know Soundwave himself would disagree.
Soundwave superior.
Sound Blaster
Inferior.
As for Wave 2, we got a repack of Bombers, who was in the first year of Legacy, so we're going to skip him for now. We also got Thundercracker, another repaint of the Starscream Seeker mold that was introduced in the Kingdom line. I already covered the Skywarp in the last video, but this time they did actually give him his null ray cannons, but all the stock photos have him holding them like normal weapons, because I guess Hasbro can't do anything right. And lastly, we also got Nemesis Prime as a core class figure. Now this is just a repaint of the G1 Optimus that was introduced in the Kingdom core class line, except they replaced the gun with his axe, which looks really nice. The only unique mold for the wave is Grimlock. Now the figure looks pretty alright, though the proportions are weird because you got these very big arms and shins, but a very skinny torso, head, and upper thigh. Now the transformation is pretty good, but the dinosaur mode, while it looks good on the front, the tail is just the legs folded up and doesn't look anything like a tail, so unfortunately Grimlock here is pretty bad in the dinosaur mode, but for the robot mode, it's not the worst. Wave 3 begins with a repack of Starscream from Kingdom, so we're going to skip him, move right on to Swoop. Now Swoop here actually looks really good. His proportions are on point, no problems here. And if we look at his transformation, it's simple, but the dinosaur mode could be a little better, but it's not the worst either. I think Swoop is probably the best of the core class Dinobots so far, and his waymate is the new Dinobot they created for this line called Scar. Now this dinosaur is very chunky, just like Sludge in the robot mode, but it's not as bad as Sludge, I'd say. It looks decent enough. Transformation for this one's also pretty alright, and the dinosaur mode looks a little weird. The head's too small and the tail's weird, but the body itself is alright, so these 2 Dinobots are definitely improvements over what came before. Wave 4 was the final core class wave, and it begins with Optimus Prime, who is a refresh of the figure included from Kingdom, who was also in Legacy. So every toy line that had core class had an Optimus in it. The only other figure in the wave is Dinobot Snarl. Now this figure actually looks really good. And he also poses really well, which is a nice surprise. This is by far the best Dinobot there is. And transforms pretty well, and even the dinosaur mode looks really great for what it's supposed to be. So yeah, Dinobot Snarl is the best of the Dinobots. How do they all look combined? This is Volcanicus, and he looks really great. I honestly think it's kind of cool that they produce a set of transforming mini Dinobots that turn into a giant combiner. It's a really cool concept, and I really like this. And thankfully, it was recently repainted if you want to get it all in one go for yourself. So overall, core class was pretty alright, though once again, no characters from other parts of the brand. It's all strictly G1, and besides the Dinobots, there's no new molds in this line. So if you didn't like the Dinobots, you were kind of out of new experiences for core class. But let's see how the deluxes turned out. Before officially talking about the figures, we gotta talk about the Evo Fusion gimmick of the line. What is Evo Fusion, I hear you ask? Well, some figures have multiple accessories and you can combine them to form a big weapon. But sometimes it could also mean that the figure just includes weapons in general. Now that we talked about the gimmick, we can look at the deluxe figures themselves. There are 4 waves with 4 figures each. I already talked about Breakdown in the last video, so I won't go over him again. So let's start with Needlenose first. Needlenose does not look very good. If you look on his back, you'll notice pretty much all of his jet just hanging right back there. And that's because apparently this figure reuses a lot of the transformation steps from his original figure and doesn't really update it that much, so not exactly the most complex transformation. As for positives, he does include 2 target masters, which do turn into little weapons, which is a cool feature. And that's about it. His transformation's simple, and his jet mode looks like it isn't going to be flying anytime soon with how much undercarriage is carrying. So yeah, not very great start to Legacy Evolutions Deluxes. The next figure is Scraphook. Now, if you don't recognize him, that's because he's technically an OC created for this line. He is a Junkion, and as such, his gimmick is that he can become garbage.
Listen up, Scrap Heap. You're not an Autobot, and you never will be an Autobot. You're only good for one thing. Garbage!
Alright, well technically it's a little more complicated than that. If you look on the back of the box, you can see that the figure breaks into several parts, and those parts can be added to other figures in the line to give them armor or extra weaponry, which is a cool gimmick, admittedly. But as for the figure itself, it is a cool look. However, as a transformer, it's not very fun to transform, and that's just due to how many parts that you have to take account of. So unfortunately, a lot of the transformation has a lot of parts popping off, which isn't that fun to deal with. But beyond that, it's still an alright figure. I'll have more to say on him in the next video though, because I do want to repaint of this mold. But still, not a bad figure. The final deluxe figure of Wave 1 is the one I have the most to say about, and it's actually not a G1 character. Kind of sad that I had to say that in the Legacy line, but it is Armada Universe Hotshot, our second Armada figure for the Legacy line as a whole, and it's a deluxe class this time, which is good. Figure, like with the Armada Starscream we talked about last time, looks remarkably accurate to the show counterpart. He includes his double cannon gun thingy, and you can still use his Minicon gimmick without a Minicon, because once again there is no Minicon, but it still works. And his Evo Fusion gimmick is that you can actually remove that giant cannon from his back and plug in his two-handed gun, and you can make it this cool, like, minigun thing. Looks really nice. As for the figure's articulation, the head rotates and the visor can move up and down. The shoulders are universal, so swivel at the bicep, elbow joint, no wrist, waist swivel, universal hip joints, thigh swivel, limited knee joint just due to the window piece, but you can move it out of the way to get more bend. And the ankles can pivot downwards and have pivot inwards. The articulation works well enough to get him into some great poses, helped by the fact that the Star Saber sword that was equipped with the Armada Starscream can also be used here, and looks better in this figure's hands due to its smaller size. As for the transformation, it's not the best, but it's also not that bad. It's just a little awkward in some spots, but not the worst thing ever. So this figure is pretty great, but I do wish he had his Minicon. But thankfully Hasbro did release a Power Links version that does include the Minicon, plus 2 extra guns, and some blast effects. Fortunately it was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, so let me try and access their website. Oh, Yeah, Hasbro Pulse doesn't exist where I'm at, so I actually cannot access the website to get this figure.
Last time, access denied!
Really sucks I can't get it, but as for the figure itself, it is basically just a repaint, though it does technically have a new head. The main reason to get this though was be for the Minicon Jolt, who is a nice little transforming minifigure. Weird that they didn't use them for core class, but whatever. This would have been an awesome set if it was widely available everywhere, instead of just being limited to the places that Hasbro Pulse is active. So, unfortunately, I'd say just get the original because it's easier to get. Wave 2 begins with another Junkion OC. This is Crash Bar. Now, this figure looks a little more interesting than Scrap Hook. That's just due to the fact that I like that his legs look a little different. Shows that he's kind of like made together from scrap, which I like. Transforms into a motorcycle, which is also a very cool mode, and like with the previous one, you can take him apart. But what's really cool is that he can combine parts of him with the Scrap Hook figure, and you can create some interesting vehicle modes from it, which is very cool. So once again, the gimmick is pretty neat, but as considering this isn't really a character, might not be for everybody. The following figure is called Crosscut, and it is just a repaint with a new head of the Legacy Skids, which I talked about in the last video, so I'm going to be skipping him as there's nothing really else to add here. The next figure is Shrapnel, the next of the Insecticons. I talked about Kickback last time. This figure is very similar to Kickback in a lot of ways, so I won't spend too much time on him. Just know that the Throwball mode looks pretty good, Bug mode looks pretty silly, but that's accurate to the source, and it's a simple transformation, so it's a pretty decent figure overall. The final figure of Wave 2 is the one I have the most to say about it. It is Animated Universe Prowl. Our first look at how a Transformers animated character is translated, and it's about as good as Prime's adaptation. Slightly more accurate, but the style of animated was so unique, and to see it just stripped away is very sad for me. Which is why I don't own this figure, because I own the original. And yeah, there's basically no reason to own this if you have the original. I mean, this version has better posing, sure, but I'd rather have better accuracy than posing. So as for the figure itself, though, it does still look pretty decent, if not accurate, which is fine enough. Comes with the 2 shuriken weapons, which do fold up to the vehicle mode. And speaking of the vehicle mode, looks pretty alright as well. Depending on which side you look at, though, one side looks better than the other, in my opinion. And transformation, from what I hear, is also pretty decent. But sadly, this is the only animated figure in this line. And I thought Bumblebee was here, but I just misremembered, because I genuinely can't believe they would introduce animated and make it a big deal, and then only produce one figure for it. As for Wave 3, it's off to a very bad start, as we have Predacon Tarantulas, who is a package refresh of the figure included in last year's Legacy line. And so I won't be talking about him much. Speaking of disappointments, we also got Axle Grease, who is a repaint of Scrap Hook, who is in this very toy line 2 waves ago, except now he's a Decepticon. As for new deluxes, we got this guy named Devcon. He's a pretty obscure character in G1, and yeah, I don't recognize him much. He looks pretty generic overall, but not terrible. His vehicle mode looks pretty bad. It literally just looks like he's lying down, with his arms by his side and his knees folded up. But beyond that, I guess the figure's alright. I said don't own him, so I don't really have much to say on him. The final figure of Wave 3 is Beachcomber, and this guy looks pretty good. I actually really like the look of him. He's got a nice shade of blue, he comes with a weapon, but the best thing he comes with is a parrot. Yeah, a little parrot minifigure, and you can plug that onto his shoulder, which looks really nice. I'm assuming this is a reference to G1 in some way. And he transforms into a nice little, sand, beach thingy. And I like that look of it. You don't often see Transformers without roofs. So this is a nice, unique vehicle. I actually really like Beachcomber and would highly recommend you track one down if you're a fan of the character. Wave 4 gives us our final Insecticon, Bombshell. And you know what? This actually looks really cool to me. I think this is the coolest looking Insecticon. I don't have much else to say on him, except that his bug mode looks very weird to me. I don't know what it is. It just looks really chunky. The next figure is one of the most interesting to talk about, and it is Detritus. Now, what makes this figure interesting is less so the figure itself, though it is a very good figure, but more so that who it was supposed to be. This figure is a repaint of the cancelled Studio Series 86 Hound. This figure would have been a Target exclusive as part of the buzzworthy Bumblebee toy line, but that figure, along with the Dark of the Moon Hatchet, got cancelled.
The future has changed. Yes. The Autobots lose. Evil triumphs. And you no longer exist.
However, thankfully it was released eventually as part of a 5-pack, and just recently part of the Target exclusive More Than Meets the Eye collection for as part of the 40th anniversary of the '86 movie. As for Detritus itself though, color scheme is not that interesting to look at, though it is an interesting take on the character, as Detritus is both an Autobot and a Decepticon in the sense that he's a mercenary for hire. So you get the Autobot symbol in Robot mode and the Decepticon symbol in Jeep mode, which is cool. But yeah, this is an alright figure, but get the Hound, it's much better. The next figure is a shocking one, as it's a Cyberverse universe figure, a show that only recently ended around the time this figure came out. And it's Shadow Striker, and she looks absolutely nothing like her design in the show. But now granted, this is her first appearance design. She later gets repaired by Shockwave using whatever parts are available, and it still doesn't look accurate. In fact, this figure is actually designed to look like Robots in Disguise 2001 Sideburn. And guess what this figure would get repainted into in the next line? So why they decided to make this Cyberverse Universe Shadow Striker first is anyone's guess. As a figure on its own, it does look pretty decent as Robots in Disguise 2001 Sideburn, not as Shadow Striker, and it transforms pretty well from what I can see. So yeah, just get the Sideburn version and skip this Shadow Striker figure. The final deluxe is another first-timer. It's Robots in Disguise 2015 Strong Arm. Now, this figure looks really accurate to the source, which is surprising because the Robots in Disguise 2015 is a sequel to Prime. Those figures don't look accurate, but this one does. I think it's just due to the more blocky aesthetic that show has compared to Prime. And yeah, the figure does look really nice. And I'd say it's a significant improvement over the original, which makes me want to get this so I can replace my original figure.
She's not so hot. She's hot enough to replace you whenever I choose.
As for the figure itself, it is actually a remold of the Elita 1 that we talked about last time. You can notice from the waist down it's the same, but the waist up is almost entirely new, which is awesome. It makes me wonder why Shadow Striker didn't have more done to her mold to make her look more like the character, if they can do it for Strong Arm. But regardless, this figure is still great, and the police car mode looks also nice. So yeah, I actually really recommend Strong Arm if you're a fan of the series. I'm not, but I'll still pick it up at some point. And yeah, I actually did just get her recently. The figure itself, now that I have it in person, still does look very nice, though now I can see how big the backpack is, which is a little annoying. Speaking of things that are a little annoying, the figure includes her pistol, which she only used for a bit of the show. Most of the time she used her Decepticon Hunter crossbow, which would have been a better accessory in my opinion. But now that I own the figure, I can also talk about the transformation, and it is a lot of fun. I actually really like transforming this figure back and forth. It's really solid and fun. And speaking of solid, the articulation is also pretty solid, including some wrist swivel, which I was shocked to see on this design, but you can get some good poses out of her. So yeah, I actually really like this figure, and I'm glad I upgraded from the original. Overall, deluxes are a bit better than core classes. We actually have some characters from the larger legacy of the brand. However, with only 5 non-G1 characters out of 16 total deluxes, it's still very heavily G1 skewed, even though the Junkions are technically OCs. And even then, for the legacy portion, Tarantulas is just a repack of a figure from a prior wave, so it's not that exciting of a lineup. But let's see if the Voyagers can offer some more variety and make a more even split. Just like the other lines, we got 4 waves, this time with only 2 figures each. And wave 1 surprisingly does not have any G1 characters. Kinda. You see, the Tarn figure is from the IDW comics. And those, while they sometimes use G1 designs, also have unique designs on occasion. So looking at the Tarn figure, he is actually very accurate to how he looks in the source material. And as a design on his own, he does look very awesome. I don't know much about this character, but he does look really sick with the Decepticon logo face. And he seems to pose really well too. And his vehicle mode also looks really awesome. So yeah, Tarn is definitely a great figure to track down. The other Voyager in the first wave is a new character for the lineup, and that's because it's from Beast Wars 2nd. This is Leo Convoy, or as the box calls him, Leo Prime. Now, looking at the figure, it is a lion, Optimus Prime, which is a cool looking design, and it does look pretty accurate to the source material, like with the other Beast Wars figures. The figure also has very awesome posing in the robot mode, and his weapons are unique in that they flip out from parts of the lion. Speaking of the lion, though, that's where this figure falls apart, as the lion mode just looks really bad. And it's all has to do with the face. Just looks very derpy. That's kind of sad. But the figure on its own is actually really good. So if you're a fan of the Beast Wars design aesthetic, this figure is one to definitely track down.
Oh, I like you, pussycat. Yes.
As for Wave 2, we have Twincast, who is just a repaint of Blaster from the Kingdom toy line, so I won't be talking about him here. As for his Wavemate Metal Hawk, this figure is also not entirely new, as it's actually an extensive retool of the Kingdom Cyclonus figure, one of the best Voyagers that I have ever experienced from this line. And so this figure by that extent is pretty good as a mold, but I'm not feeling the color scheme that much. I think the yellow clashes too much with the red and blue. And then looking at the vehicle mode, it doesn't look as nice as Cyclonus' jet mode, so unfortunately can't really say that this figure is better than the Cyclonus. I'd just say wait for the 86 Cyclonus and grab that. Now the following figure from Wave 3 is another refrac. This is Dirge. He was originally released as part of the Earthrise line. It was basically impossible to get, so this is a great way to get him if you missed him. But I won't be talking much about him here, and will instead save that for a possible Earthrise video. The second figure of Wave 3 is a repaint of the Leo Prime. This is Nemesis Leo Prime. It's the same figure as before, but now all in black, and with some little bits of blue here and there. They did also fix the lion face, which is nice, and speaking of that, I forgot to mention that you can deploy the weapons in the lion mode, which is kind of funny. Wave 4 begins with a repaint of the Tarn figure into a bludgeon figure. Color scheme looks accurate, but the body mold does not look accurate to the source, so I'd say just get Tarn. The final Voyager is Trashmaster. He is another Junkion, but this time in the Voyager scale, which means he still has the gimmick of becoming Trash.
I'm only good for one thing. Garbage!
That clip is actually fitting because this figure is recently repainted and with a new head into the Age of the Primes line as animated Wreck-Gar. So you can get it right now, and what I think is better colors, even though it doesn't look like animated Wreck-Gar, but I can save that Rant for an Age of the Primes video if I ever want to make it. As for this figure, it does look pretty good, the gimmick's pretty fun, and the garbage truck mode is pretty decent. So, decent Voyager. Overall, the Voyagers are just kind of lazy, honestly. There's 3 unique molds, and most of the line are repaints or retools, some from this line, some from other lines. So it just kind of leaves you with a lack of variety overall. But let's see if the leaders and the 1 commander and 1 titan make up for it. The leader class only has 3 waves total with 5 figures in all around. So looking at the first figure, we got Transmetal 2 Megatron, who was literally released in the final wave of leader class figures in Legacy Year 1. So there is a good chance you would have seen both of them on the shelf at the exact same time.
New packaging, same product. Losers.
The other leader class for Wave 1 is Prime Universe Skyquake. Now this is the first Prime figure in this line. Despite being very prevalent in the last line, this line only has them in the leader class line. As for the Skyquake himself, he does actually look decently accurate to the source, a lot more accurate than the Legacy Year 1 figures. However, stuff like the chest and the feet are blatantly inaccurate design-wise. As for the figure itself, though, this figure is actually really awesome. It includes a sword and a Gatling gun, which is awesome and can be held with 2 hands. So I really love the Gatling gun. As for the articulation, I actually own this figure. It's been a while since I've said that. Head looks up and down swivels, arms are universal, bicep swivel, elbow joint, wrist swivel, waist swivel, hips, thigh, knees, and ankles. Very posable figure and a very fun transformation, and the jet mode also looks really awesome. Now for some reason, the Needle Nose Deluxe figure can also plug into the jet mode for this guy, and I have no idea why, and I don't know anyone that would use this. Unless there's just some weird guy out there who does this.
Yes, right, you're one of those.
But beyond that, Skyquake is a very good figure. Now Wave 2 begins with Blitzwing, who is another package refresh from the last year of Legacy, so we're gonna skip him. The other leader class for Wave 2 was the Armada Megatron, and yes, this figure looks absolutely perfect. Brought onto the show design, which is customary for the Armada figures due to their block gear designs. As for the figure itself, though, there is an issue with the shoulders, where they don't tab in and are a little loose. And you can't rotate them at the shoulder joint, you have to rotate them beneath the shoulder joint, which is a little annoying. Beyond that, though, the figure does look really nice, and comes with this removable cannon piece for his tank turret. I don't know why, but you can plug it into his hand. Beyond that, though, he can also do his evolution mode from the show, which which is really cool, and the transformation's simple and fun, but the tank mode looks pretty good. I don't own this figure, and you'll see why in the next video, but I highly recommend him as a great figure. And our final leader class is Prime Universe Dreadwing. This figure is a repaint of Prime Universe Skyquake in what I think is a much more interesting color scheme. However, distribution screwed me, so I was unable to get him, because I would have actually preferred him over Skyquake. And the only other difference to mention is instead of coming with a Gatling gun, he comes with a flamethrower. So yeah, overall the leaders are like the Voyagers, they're mostly repacks from the last wave. There's only 2 unique molds in this lineup. This legacy line's feeling kind of cheap and lazy, but thankfully there was a saving grace to this line, and it's with the Commander class. V1 Commander class is Armada Universe Optimus Prime, and oh boy, this figure is absolutely amazing. First off, once again, extremely accurate in the robot mode, which is awesome to see. As for the figure's accessories, he includes his big blaster and even a matrix of leadership, which is nice. As for the figure's articulation, it's pretty good all around, though he does not have a waist swivel just due to a feature that I'll mention soon. But the figure itself is still very poseable overall, and when you transform into truck mode, he still looks really great. However, the figure's big selling point is with the trailer. The trailer can convert into a battle platform, which is alright, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is that it can convert into legs, and the Optimus can convert into an upper body, creating this combined mode, and this combined mode is awesome. It looks just as accurate as the normal robot mode does, and the articulation actually finally has waists and opening hands, which is an awesome feature. So yeah, Armada Universe Optimus is by far my favorite figure in Legacy Evolution. I highly recommend him if you can track him down for retail price, but he is kind of pricey on the aftermarket now because everyone really likes this figure. As for our Titan class, we got the Decepticon Nemesis. If you don't recognize this design, that is because it's actually an OC technically, as the vehicle mode is actually the G1 Decepticon battleship, which is cool. And now that ship is impossible to actually have landing on the ground, so Hasbro did invent a way to fold away the bottom fin, so that way you can have it perched on the ground, which is a nice idea. As for the robot mode, it is a pretty cool looking design, and this character is female, which is kind of nice for some variety's sake. And despite the gigantic size of the figure, it doesn't seem to be a slouch in posing. This figure is meant for a companion piece towards the Kingdom Autobot arc that came out, and the Kingdom toy line, but from what I understand, most people prefer the Nemesis over the arc. So if this interests you, I'd highly recommend picking it up. Wasn't for me, but that's okay. And with that, we've officially finished off the main line of Legacy. Let's now take a look at the exclusives and then give our final thought. This time, the Walmart exclusive subline was called the Toxitron Collection and focused on G2 inspired repaints of various figures, which means the figures look absolutely horrible because G2's color palette was very strange. And this time there's also no unique molds unlike the last Legacy line, so we're gonna skip these and move on to the other retailer exclusives. For some reason, Walgreen Pharmacies of all places received Autobot Medics. Now, looking at this character up, he seems to be from Rescue Bots Academy. However, that design looks completely different than this figure, but in the original Rescue Bots toy line, there was a character called Medics that does look more like this figure. As for the figure itself, though, it is just a remold of the Legacy skins. Since we've already talked about that in the Legacy video, I'm going to skip this, but at least we can add Rescue Bot representation to the amount of universes that this line has. As for Target, we got the Buzzworthy Bumblebee line, and first up we have the Origin Jazz figure. This figure depicts Jazz in the pilot episode of G1, where the robot mode looks very similar to how he'd look when he scanned his Earth mode, but the vehicle mode is completely different and alien looking. This figure is meant to go with the Cybertronian Origin Bumblebee figure that they released prior, and they look nice together, so this is a pickup if you want to complete that episode look. The next Buzzworthy Bumblebee figure was Robots in Disguise 2001 toyline, and this figure is just a repaint of Scraphook but with a new head, and comparing it to the source material, it doesn't look accurate in either mode. Why this exists, I'm not even sure, but whatever, it's a Target exclusive repaint, so I guess they didn't really have much budget, but at least we got a Robots in Disguise 2001 character represented here. The final buzzworthy Bumblebee thing to mention is the Trooper Builder multi-pack. This is a 4-pack that includes generic troopers for you to build up your ranks. You get a G1 Decepticon Seeker, a Quintesson Soldier, a G2 Cybertronian Trooper, and most interestingly, an animated Autobot Trooper. This is the second animated figure in the line, and it's a very obscure background character that you see in Season 3 of Animated. But it is cool that they exist, even if the mold is just a repaint of an older figure, and thus not accurate in the least. But then again, most of these figures from other continuities aren't accurate in the first place. And with that, we've talked about all the exclusives I want to mention. So, how was Legacy's evolution in the main line? Did it succeed in surpassing Legacy? Was it better?
No.
What?
But we made more characters from other continuities.
I said no!
I'm sick of G1 getting the spotlight. I'm sick of the redesigns. And I'm especially sick of this line's obsession with repacks and repaints. Alright, more to the point though. Looking at the line, while I'm grateful they added Beast Wars 2nd, Animated, Robots in Disguise 2015, and Cyberverse, they also removed Transformers Cybertrons that has 0 figures represented here. Along with Beast Wars, as while it does have 2 slots represented, those are repacks from the prior line. So they're not even that special. Now I understand, Transformers is a toy company, you need to have repacks and repaints. And I can somewhat excuse the repaints when they're from other lines besides Legacy, because those figures would have been older, so I wouldn't have minded them so much. But when you're repacking and repainting figures that were just released, sometimes within the exact same line, it comes off kinda, well, like lousy feeling. You want something new. If you release Skyquake in this line and then Dreadwing in the next line, it'd feel better, I think. But more to the point though, Legacy is still a good line, and Evolution is too. I don't know if I made that point clear, but they're both good toy lines. I just feel that they don't do what they're setting out to do, which is to celebrate the Transformers legacy. It feels like it's G1 plus and the legacy, instead of the legacy of the brand. And with all that said, we only have one more legacy line to cover, Legacy United. Will they finally acknowledge Beast Machines and Transformers Energon? Will Robots in Disguise 2001 finally escape being retailer exclusive? Find out in the next video. And lastly, let's do Transformers Legacy United. Previously on this channel, I took a look at both Transformers Legacy toy lines, the original called Transformers Legacy and the sequel called Transformers Legacy Evolution. While both toy lines are great in their own rights, they failed at doing the thing that they set out to do, and that is celebrating the core brand, the Legacy. Well, this is the end of that trilogy, and we have this toy line called Legacy United. Now, if you haven't seen the prior videos, I highly recommend checking them out.
Why should I? What's in it for me?
Your bargaining posture is highly dubious, but very well. By watching the previous 2 videos, you will have a greater understanding of this video. And nothing. Now, like with the previous lines, we're going to start with the core class and work our way down. But this time, the line is actually a lot larger than the previous 2, as this line lasted more than just a year, and it extended into a little bit of 2025. Starting off with core class, we have 3 waves of figures, and surprisingly, none of them are repacks or repaints from prior line. Wave 1 actually has 0 G1 characters in it. That is very shocking. Let's get started with the most interesting to me, Beast Wars 2nd Tasmania Kid. Now, this character is from the Beast Wars 2nd anime. As such, he's very obscure up here in the West, but if he does look familiar to you, that is because his toy was released in the Beast Wars line under the name Snarl first, and then that character got adapted into the Beast Wars 2nd anime under the name Tasmania Kid. As for the figure itself, it is very cool looking as a robot, and seems to pose pretty well. And looking at the Chipmunk mode, it looks fairly decent. So yeah, this is a pretty cool core class figure, and I'm happy to see such an obscure character in the first line. The second figure I want to mention is a character named Boulder Crash. Now, this character is more or less an OC created for this line, but his origin is interesting. You see, this character sort of debuted in the GoBox cartoon, which was Transformers' biggest competitor for a while before being bought by Hasbro themselves. One of their shorts had them fighting these things called the Rock Lords. And as such, this figure is based on the Rock Lords. This character has a cool paint scheme with the red highlights being my favorite part of him, and seems to pose pretty well, and he turns into a motorcycle. The rock texture especially looks really good on him, so yeah, he's a pretty nifty little guy. The final figure is one I've been waiting for since the beginning of the Legacy line as a concept. It is Energon Universe Megatron. The figure looks absolutely perfect to the show model, which is good because this is a decent design for Megatron, I always felt. As for the figure's articulation, the head rotates a bit left and right, the shoulders are on ball joints, the elbows bend, the biceps swivel. There is no waist swivel, but the legs can move forward and back in and out. There's a thigh swivel, the knee joints bend really well, and there is a bit of an ankle movement for transformation. Figure includes the tank with the sword on the end of it, along with 2 green parts that you can apply in different formations. And the transformation is very simple, but the air gunship looks very cool. So yeah, this figure was definitely worth the wait, and best of all, if you own the Supreme Class Unicron from the Transformers Energon toy line, figure is in perfect scale with it, and that makes her an awesome display piece. Wave 2 only had one figure, and that was the Beast Machines Core Class Cheetor. Yeah, they actually made a Beast Machines figure, and he looks very accurate, which is a godsend, because if Beast Machines was known for one thing, it was that its toys were hideously inaccurate to the source material. As for the figure itself, the head rotates, arms are on ball joints, the elbows are on ball joints, the legs are on ball joints, the thighs are swivels, and you got 2 different sets of knees for the cool chicken leg look. The figure comes with 2 swords, which you can combine together to form some sort of boomerang thing, and the cheetah mode also looks pretty good. I'm very happy that they made a Beast Machines figure. Just sucks that he's so small. But thankfully he is kind of somewhat in scale with the Thurling 30 Deluxe Tankor from Beast Machines, so at least that's a positive. Wave 3 is sadly only repaints, as we got to repaint a boulder crash into this character named Ryokon, who does actually have a much more interesting color scheme. I especially like the purple highlights in the vehicle mode. And our final core class is Energon Universe Galvatron. Yes, this is just a repaint of the Energon Universe Megatron into Galvatron. This color scheme is very cool and very G1 inspired. In fact, you can even buy an upgrade kit to give him a cannon. And yeah, this was what Hasbro was doing during the 2000s. Whenever they needed Megatron to get a power-up, they would just repaint him and call him Galvatron.
Behold, Galvatron.
And that ends Core Class, like, not even just for this toy line, like, in general. This was the final wave of Core Class figures that they ever made. There was also supposed to be a Beast Wars Dinobot figure as part of this assortment, but he got cancelled, and we don't even know what he looks like.
Tell my tale to those who ask. Tell it truly, the evil deeds, along with the good, and let me be judged accordingly. The rest... silence.
So yeah, Core Class really impressed me this time, and I'm happy to see that the line ended on a high note. Now let's see how our deluxes hold up. For deluxes, we have 5 waves total with 18 figures all in all. So let's start with the wave 1 and work our way through. Just like Core Class, shockingly none of these figures are from G1. So let's get started with the one I think is the most interesting to cover. The one I find the most interesting to cover is Chase, and that is because he's from the Rescue Bots show. And yeah, this looks very accurate to the cartoon show that's made for preschoolers, which is awesome that they were inclusive enough to include it in. As for the figure itself, he does look very nice and seems to pose pretty alright. Comes with a clear blue plastic claw weapon, which is neat, and he seems to transform pretty well, and the police car mode does also look pretty good. So this seems like a pretty solid deluxe figure and a good start to the line. The Rock Lords are also at this scale. And here we have Megonius. Now this figure looks pretty good. He reminds me of a Bayverse protoform with the spiky bits and the predominantly gray paint. Now, the Rock Lords have a gimmick, and like the Junkions from the last year, they can break apart, but this time to form weapons instead of armor, and that's a fun gimmick, like with the breaking apart for the armor. Transformation's probably not that great though, but the vehicle mode looks pretty interesting on this guy. So yeah, this is a fun little gimmick figure. I really like him. The next figure is very interesting as it is Cyberverse Universe Windblade. The figure looks very accurate to how she looks in the Cyberverse cartoon. As for the Windblade herself, she is a very interesting character because she was technically created by the fans. And those fans likely baked her female because they realized there's not too many females in the brand.
Female? I thought they were extinct.
As for the figure itself, she includes a very awesome purple sword, and surprisingly the back of her head can be removed for whatever reason. The figure also poses pretty decently. Unfortunately, the jet mode doesn't look very good. Very chunky in the upper section, and you can see the arms along the side. But beyond that, the robot mode still looks very nice, so I get it just for that. And our final figure of Wave 1 is Animated Universe Bumblebee. Now, this is our second mainline animated figure in the Legacy line. How well did they do? You know what? This actually looks pretty accurate, but there is still some weird inaccuracies, like why are the legs not yellow like the show model?
I tried to gain favor from you, but nothing was ever good enough. No matter how many battles I fought, you always found fault.
Okay, it's not that big of a deal. But compared to the original figure, this figure's height is much closer to what he should be, because he was very small in that show. Figure, due to its smaller size, does come with above average accessories. You do get the stingers, which you can plug into his hands, but if you want to hold them, you also get the thrusters. They can plug into the thrusters, and you can hold them as handheld weapons, or you can also use them as the blast effects for the thrusters. And I do like this figure a lot. Posability is a huge factor. This figure is one of the best posing deluxes in the Legacy line. You can really hit some good poses with him. And transformation's also pretty fun, and the vehicle mode is nice and accurate. Plus you can still use the turbo boosters on it. So yeah, I actually really like Animated Universe Bumblebee, though I personally settled for the Age of the Primes animated and fugitive Waspinator because I really like that color scheme more. Wave 2 of the deluxes begins with Cyberverse Universe Chromia, which is just a repaint of the Animated Universe Prowl from the Legacy Evolution line. And yeah, it doesn't look very accurate to Cyberverse Chromia, so I'd say just stick with Prowl if you need to get this mold. Next we got another Rock Lord. This one's name is Shard, and he might be my favorite of the Rock Lords. I really like the green color scheme he has, plus he comes with some very cool weaponry that all plugs into his arms, giving him very cool blades. And speaking of blades, he turns into a helicopter, which is a very cool alternate mode. I got some sad news, guys. The next figure is a G1 figure.
No, not that.
I'm just kidding. I think G1 should still be part of Legacy, but I do like that this line's a bit more balanced. As for the figure itself, it is of Gears, and this figure looks really awesome. He includes a blaster, plus it's advertised that you can remove his chest up for whatever reason. I'm assuming it's something that happens in the series. He poses very well, which is good because he's tiny, and he seems to transform pretty well into a little mini pickup truck. So yeah, this is a pretty neat little figure. Wave 3 of the deluxes begins with a repack of Strong Arm from the last line, so we will also be skipping Rocklord Nucleus because he's just a repaint of Rocklord Magnius, but in worse colors in my opinion. The next figure is Robots in Disguise 2001 Sideburn, which is a repaint of the Cyberverse Universe Shadow Striker from Legacy Evolution. Now, last time I mentioned that figure looked nothing like that character, but it does look very accurate to Robots in Disguise 2001 Sideburn. As the figure itself, he does have very good posability, and he transforms pretty well. Though don't lose the roof, because then the vehicle mode will look incomplete. The only brand new mold in this wave is Cybertron Universe Hotshot, and yeah, this figure looks very accurate to how the Cybertron Hotshot looks. As for a figure itself, I actually own this one, so let me look over his articulation. The head has some very good tiltage, but the shoulders are where things get weird. Can't really move out that much, the elbows don't bend that far, and the wrists are very hard to access due to the doors being in the way. But the waist rotates, the hips are universal, knees bend pretty well, you get an ankle tilt, and yeah, very good articulation in the lower body. Upper body is a bit limited, but you can still get some decent poses out of him. He includes his Cyberplanet key, which doesn't work, but you can still pretend to do the gimmick and have the wings flip out. And the transformation's very fun, if simple, and yeah, the figure looks very good in vehicle mode. But it's hard to say if this is worth upgrading if you have the originals. They look very identical, and the original wasn't too bad in posing either. So let's just pick which one you think you'd like more. Wave 4 of the deluxes begins with Cyberverse Universe Slipstream, who is a remold of the Cyberverse Universe Windblade we already talked about. As for how accurate she looks, it's not very accurate as it's very thin in proportion, which ironically makes it look more accurate to the animated Slipstream design. which is what I wish they would have went with, because that would have been cooler, in my opinion. The next figure is G1 Universe Quake, who is surprisingly enough a retool of the Legacy Skullgrin, but it looks very different. And this figure is also a target master, so he has two little robots that turn into weapons, which is an awesome feature that I always love to see. And the tank mode even looks significantly different than Skullgrin as well, so they really put a lot of effort into this new mold. So yeah, I'd say that's a pretty cool effort, and I kind of wish Slipstream got this kind of effort. The last deluxe of the wave is a G1 Optimus Prime, but this Optimus is special. He is not exactly based on the original 80s cartoon. He is actually based on the original toy from the 80s cartoon, just significantly smaller and without any of the stickers, but what makes this figure better is the articulation. That is the best thing about this figure. He poses extraordinarily, and it's basically a what if that original figure was made today. Figure also has a lot of accessories, coming with 2 guns, his energon axe, and a clear blue matrix of leadership. That figure's transformation seems pretty good, and the truck mode also looks really awesome. So yeah, this is definitely a very awesome little figure, and the perfect way to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the brand. But of course, the Legacy had one extra wave of deluxes, which we will now take a look at. Wave 5 will be very quick to talk about, as it's mostly repacks and repaints from older lines. Like for example, we got G2 Universe Breakdown, who is just a repaint of the Breakdown from Legacy, except in very bad colors in my opinion, along with Legacy Cosmos, who was repacked from the Walmart exclusive line because people had trouble finding him. Likewise, another repack in the line is the Origin Bumblebee, originally released as part of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee line. This depicts Bumblebee in the pilot episode of G1, where he's got the Earth Robot mode, but a Cybertronian old mode. And to achieve that, the figure sadly has a ton of kibble on him, which is a little annoying, but the figure makes up with it for excellent posing that he has. He also comes with really above average accessories, including a little blaster, a jetpack, and 5 fuel rods that the figure can hold with some posing. As for the figure's transformation, it's pretty fun, and the saucer mode looks pretty good. So yeah, if you can get past the kibble, I honestly recommend this. It's one of the best Chug-style Bumblebees in the G1 aesthetic that you can get. The final deluxe is our first Armada figure in this line, and it is Armada Wheeljack. Now, this figure was a repaint of a Comic-Con exclusive Shattered Glass Sideswipe, but the reason for that is because the figure itself is a repaint and slight remold of the Siege Sideswipe figure, which was an awesome figure that got repainted a ton, and this is another one to add to the pile. As for how it looks compared to the show model, it is very awesome and looks very good. As for the figure's articulation, the head can rotate, the arms are universal, bicep swivel, elbow joint, wrist can hinge inward, waist swivel, hips, thighs, knees, and an ankle pivot. Posability is very awesome on this figure. He includes his 2 baton weapons and a shoulder cannon, which he never used in Armada, but Sideswipe came with it, so they might as well throw it in. Transformation's also really fun because that mold is really good. So if you're a fan of the mold, this is another version of it. For me, though, this is my definitive version of the mold because I really like Armada Wheeljack as a character. And that is it for our deluxe class Transformers figures from Legacy United. Overall, I thought this was the best deluxe lineup we've had so far, with a lot of variety in it. Fortunately, there is still a lot of repaints and retools, but that's just kind of expected from the brand. And Transbro knows that Transformers fans are consumers and will buy pretty much anything with the name on it if it interests them.
Well, all I need's a spider and I got the whole set! Gotta catch 'em all!
Moving on to the Voyager classes, we got 5 waves again, but only 9 figures this time. We're going to start with Wave 1's animated Optimus Prime and see how well they adapted the Optimus Prime design.
You promised you wouldn't laugh! Sorry.
I don't know what it is. I think it's just the generally bulkier proportions, but they look like they took the animated Optimus Prime design and then tried to chatify it, which makes me giggle. But still, as updates go, this is very close, just, very blockier and such, a little more muscular than normal. As for the figure itself, he comes with the Energon axe, which is awesome, and has an extendable handle, which is great, because this figure has some very awesome posing, especially in the ankles. I'll show more off later in the video, but as for the figure itself, he transforms also very fun, and the vehicle, it also looks really good. So yeah, Animated Optimus is definitely a good Voyager. Now, despite actually owning the original Animated Optimus, I did end up grabbing this guy because I found him at a thrift store for $5 complete, and I couldn't say no to that. Figure itself in person looks a lot better than the stock photos do, and it's not as bulky to me, which I think is nice. Though the tolerances on my copy were a bit off. Talk about the transformation a bit later, but showing off the articulation, you'll see it again later in the video, but it's still really good. And yeah, this is a nice option for an animated Optimus if you can't get the original Voyager. As for his wavemate, we got Prime Universe Thundertron. Now, if you don't recognize this guy, that's because he's never actually in the Prime cartoon. He was planned to be the main villain of the 3rd season before they swapped to the Beast Hunters concept. His character is basically a pirate, from what I understand. And looking at the figure itself, it does look pretty cool. He comes with a nice sword, which is awesome, and to make the pirate theme more apparent, you can remove one of his foot to have like a peg leg, which is a neat gimmick. And his transformation into this Beast looks pretty simple enough, and yeah, the Beast mode looks pretty posable, which is nice for a Beast former. So yeah, pretty decent Voyager. Wave 2 of the Voyagers begins with our first Beast Wars figure in this line, and that is Silverbolt. He is also the first Fusor that they've done in the Kingdom/Legacy line. And yeah, the figure looks very accurate to the source material. And he also is scaled properly, so he's taller than Black Arachnia, which is accurate. The figure comes with 2 feathered tips that are meant to replicate the weapons he used on the show, and the transformation into the fused eagle and dog looks pretty good, and that mode also looks really good. This is a figure a lot of Beast Wars fans I think would enjoy. Silverbolt's wavemate was Cybertron Universe Starscream, and oh boy do I love this figure a lot. First off, the robot mode is spot on, accurate to how he looked in the Cybertron cartoon, which is awesome because I really love that design. The figure comes with a lot of accessories too, including 2 null ray blasters, a cyber planet key, and a gun. Now, the null ray blasters can plug onto his arms, and you can flip out the blades, because in the show, when he inserted the cyber key, the blades would flip out. Here you can do it manually. But here's where the figure really shines, the posing. Head swivels, the arms rotate, go in and out. Elbow jointed elbows, wrist swivel, a waist swivel, unimpeded legs, thighs, really good knees, and really awesome ankle movement. This figure can get into some awesome poses. Transformation's pretty simple, but pretty fun, and the jet mode looks very cool. So this is definitely a Voyager to pick up. I highly recommend Cybertron Starscream. Wave 3 only has 1 figure, but it continues the Cybertron train as we got Vector Prime. Now this figure, despite being a remold of the Legacy G-Axis, looks pretty accurate to the source, which is good. And that mold was already really good, so the articulation on this guy is insane, and you can get some very good sword poses with him. Or at least you would be able to. You see, early copies had some terrible QC, but over time the batches got fixed, so if you can get a newer batch, this figure is definitely worth a pickup. Wave 4 begins with Metal Hawk. He is almost identical to the one included in Legacy Evolution, but has a slight paint difference. I'd still say Cyclonus is better if you want this mold, so just wait for the 86 Cyclonus. The other figure included in this wave is Animated Universe Motormaster, a character who appears in some animated tie-in comics. As for the figure itself, it's identical to the Animated Universe Optimus, just with a new head, but because I own this, I can finally show you the articulation of it so you can see that the figure indeed has very good posing options. So yeah, either version of the mold is great to get. I just went with this because I have the original animated Optimus and didn't feel the need to replace him. And the final wave of Voyagers are just repacks of hard to find Voyagers. We got Tarn from Legacy Evolution, and we also got Ramjet from Earthrise. It's nice that they were released for those who missed out on them originally. Overall, the Voyagers have a pretty good selection, which I like. Wave 5 is just reissues, but that's fine because that wave is kind of just filler to hold over until the next line. The only figure I think is a little bit of a wasted slot is the Metal Hawk, and that's just because he was released in the prior wave, and they just updated his paint job slightly. In fact, I think that's something that should be saved more for exclusives, and there was an exclusive in this line that we'll get to later that I think should have taken up the mainline spot. With all that said, let's take a look at the leader class figures. Alright, for leader class we got 7 figures total. So let's take a look, starting with the G2 Laser Optimus, which is just a repack of the figure from the first Legacy line. And since I already talked about him, we will be skipping him and moving right along to the next figure. The other Wave 1 figure is Beast Wars Universe Tigerhawk, an awesome looking figure that looks very accurate to the show counterpart as per usual with the Beast Wars figures. And he does come with above average accessories, including these 2 feather pieces that you can have him hold, along with some wrist mounted weapons. Now, the figure's articulation is also very good, featuring very good head, shoulders, decent elbows, no wrists, waist swivel, hips that are a little limited, thigh swivel, a little bit of a limited knee, and the ankle hinge is limited, but the pivot's pretty good, so you get some decent posability. And the transformation is very fun and satisfying to do. But this figure has a major flaw, and it's with the hip ratchets. These things are extremely fragile and can explode. In fact, mine have, and yeah, now my figure has problems.
Die-cast construction. It's a lost art.
Really sucks that this figure has such a devastating flaw, because without that this figure would be really great. Wave 2 only has one figure, and it's G1 Sandstorm. Now, as the box says, this is a triple changer, so we'll start with the robot mode. He looks pretty good and comes with 2 guns, but my favorite thing it comes with is this cage, as that's a very unique accessory for a figure, and it looks to pose pretty well. Transforms into this vehicle thing, and that looks okay. My favorite mode is the helicopter mode, as that looks like a really nice helicopter, and the cage can be used in the helicopter mode, and that's really cool. So yeah, Sandstorm is a decent leader class figure. Leader class wave 3 begins with Armada Galvatron, which is just a repaint of the Armada Legatron from the last line. But I prefer this color scheme, and I knew about it coming out thanks to leaked listings, so that's why I didn't buy it the first time, and instead waited for this version to come out.
There's no reason to doubt me now. I am Galvatron!
Beyond that, the figure is almost identical, though they did give him a new head with a new expression, and they also made the antler pieces non-removable. But because I own this, I can finally show off the articulation, and you can see that while the shoulders don't move at the treads, they move below it, and it still works pretty well, and overall the figure has a good posability. I still really like this figure a lot, and I think you can get either color scheme that you prefer. For me personally, I stick with Galvatron. Galvatron's wavemate is Soundwave from G1. Now, you may recall in the first Legacy video, they also had a G1 Soundwave, but that version turned into a Cybertronian alt mode. This version actually transforms into the proper cassette deck form. And this figure is a repack of a figure from the Earthrise toyline, but they threw in an extra cassette tape just to make it a leader class figure. And this figure perfectly demonstrates why I don't buy G1 figures so often. You see, I bought that Legacy Soundwave because I wanted a good G1 Soundwave, but then 2 years later we get this version, which is better, and then a year and a half after that we got the 86 Soundwave, which is even better than that. Which leaves me with the Legacy version, which is still a good figure, but the other two are just better in every way, and they even come with cassette tapes. Mine came with nothing.
My tapes. You've erased my tapes.
Wave 4 is another one of those final wave filler waves. So we got 2 figures. At first is Legacy United Galaxy Shuttle, who is a repack of the Legacy Velocitron Galaxy Shuttle, which was itself a repaint of the Siege Astro Train. And we also have Overcharge, who is a repaint of the Legacy Blitzwing. Neither of these are that great in my opinion, and would rather just get the original molds over these repaints of them. The leader class is a little disappointing this year. Only 2 new molds and the rest are either repacks or repaints, but thankfully the last 2 size classes more than make up for the sort of lacking leader class figures here. Our commander class figure is Magmatron. Now, this figure is interesting. You see, you get 3 dinosaurs, which you can combine to form one giant robot. Or alternatively, you can also combine them to form one crazy looking beast that looks really funny to me. But the robot mode on Magmatron looks awesome, and it seems to have very good posability. So yeah, I'd say Magmatron is definitely worth picking up if you're at all on the fence about him. And to end the main line, we have Armada Universe Tidal Wave at our Titan class figure. And yeah, this guy is big, 19 inches tall. I do own this figure, but I refuse to film this for an articulation segment because he is just way too big. But I can say the figure has very awesome articulation. As for the figure's transformation, he has multiple modes. He breaks into 3 components to form the Dark Fleet, which can all combine to form one giant starship, which does look really awesome. Can also have him form a base mode, which is not so awesome. But the best feature this guy has is that he comes with mini versions of the Dark Fleet, and those can combine with the Armada Megatron/Galvatron mold to form Burning Megatron like in the Armada anime. And this is really cool to me, and I'm really happy that I picked up this Titan figure. With the main line all covered, we can now move on to the exclusives. Starting with the Walmart exclusives, we have the Star Raiders collection of figures. These are all, like usual, extensive repaints or retools of older figures. Now, the most interesting one to me is Lockdown, though. This is another Transformers animated character, and you can see that he looks nothing like Lockdown in proportion. The paint is close enough. Ironically, this figure looks a lot closer to the 2009 Revenge of the Fallen movie Lockdown figure than the animated design. But this is one of the retools that I mentioned, and this one is of the Junkion figure Scraphook. Looking at the figure's articulation, I can finally show it off. It's pretty decent, and the weaponizing gimmick still works on this figure, but still, as Lockdown, it's not the best.
Predictable as ever.
I also want to highlight Filch. Now, this character is a very minor antagonist in the Robots in Disguise 2015 show, and this figure is just a retool and repaint of the Kingdom Air Razor figure. But it is our only new character for RID 2015, so I wanted to mention it. For Amazon, we got the Doom and Destruction multi-pack sets. Now, these figures are all repaints of old molds, but I want to quickly mention the Windsweeper and Prime Universe Breakdown 2-pack. Now, Windsweeper is just a repaint of Needle Nose from Legacy Evolution, so nothing new to mention there. However, Breakdown here is a repaint of Prime Universe Bulkhead from Legacy, and I really like this mold. And this works a lot better on this character than it did for Bulkhead. And so, this was the figure I was talking about that I wanted should have been swapped for Metal Hawk, as I think it would have been a much cooler inclusion into the main line than a repaint of a character that we had in the previous line. As for Target, we got the Legacy United Origin Wheeljack figure. Originally planned to be a part of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee line before that got cancelled. We got this figure in normal packaging. And it's another Origin figure, so he's very kibble heavy just due to how the designs are basically just their Earth modes, but they turn into Cybertronian modes. But it's still kind of cool. Comes with these blue panel pieces that you can put on his back. The real function's in the vehicle mode, as they can form a nice little road for him, and he also can hold the Bumblebee's fuel rods, which is awesome. In fact, he can also hold Origin Bumblebee in his back, which is a nice reference to the episode. The other Target exclusive was the 4-pack. We got Prime Universe Cliffjumper, Beast Wars Tarantulas, which is referencing his toy prototype color scheme, G1 Squeeze Play, and Cyberverse Universe Tarn. I'm going to be focusing on Prime Universe Cliffjumper. This figure uses the Rescue Bots chase mold, but it actually works really well for Prime Cliffjumper. This actually looks very accurate, surprisingly. Beyond that, the figure has the bull horns on the car, which is awesome. So yeah, this is actually really cool, and best of all, he's getting a repack in the Age of the Primes line, so you don't have to buy this multi-pack if you want the Cliffjumper figure.
Bulkhead, I needed that!
And with all that said, we have officially ended our look at Legacy United. So, was the third time the charm? Did we actually get a really good Legacy line this time? This is what I've been waiting for. Every single figure here is from us part of the brand, so every single part of the brand is represented here. And even the redesigns that they did previously were not as bad this time, provided the figure got a new mold, of course. But still, the fact that we have a line that has G1, Beast Wars Seconds, Beast Wars Neo, Beast Machines, Robots in Disguise 2001, Armada, Energon, Cybertron, Animated, Prime, Robots in Disguise 2015, and Cyberverse all under the same line. It's really awesome. And it's something I feel the Legacy line should have done a long time ago. Though it does bring up a concern of mine that I have. How long is it going to take to finish off some of these casts? You see, Beast Wars got its Season 1 cast done in about 1.5 years, because we got most of it from Kingdom, and then the rest of it in the first year of Legacy. But none of these other shows have gotten anywhere near as many figures as the Beast Wars characters got during Kingdom. The closest show to being finished is Armada, but it still hasn't even finished its Season 1 cast off, as we're missing Cyclonus, Demolisher, and Smokescreen. Now, thankfully, the Legacy concept wasn't abandoned. The current Age of the Primes line has a bunch of figures from other continuities, which is good to see, and I hope they continue to do so one day we can complete casts. But still, I feel that the Legacy line should have all been like United. If we got it that way, we would be a lot closer to completing casts than we are now. And Hasbro did say 50% G1, 50% everything else, but it doesn't feel like it was balanced that way for the first two lines. But this line specifically, it feels a lot more balanced. But you know how it is, each company's got their own thing, and we all know what Hasbro is.
He's a coward, he's an egomaniac, he's a suck-up, he's a liar! I am not!
But overall, the Legacy trilogy is still a very good trilogy toy line. I'd still say most of the figures in the line are very good. The issue just lies with the broken promises I feel Hasbro gave me. And with that, we've officially covered every single figure from Transformers Legacy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video compilation. It was made specifically because I got a few extra figures and I wanted to throw them in when I did the compilation. The original plan actually was to have all 3 toy lines be covered at once, but time constraints made me split it into 3. Now then, if you guys like this video, please drop a like, please drop a sub. I want to talk more about Transformers on the channel. And let me know in the comments, what did you guys think of the Legacy trilogy? I'm very curious to see if anyone shares my opinions or if they have a different perspective on it. And with that all being said, I hope you all have a nice day, and I'll see you all in the next video.